Good afternoon. I'm here today to talk about the future of transplantation. First of all, I've been blessed to be part of transplantation for more than 30 years, and I've seen both personally and professionally how organ donation and transplantation truly saves lives. It changes families, it changes dynamics, and it's just really a wonderful thing. I started as a nurse way back in 1987. And I had an offer to work in the ICU, which is what I really wanted, or to work on a transplant unit. And I took the transplant unit because the schedule was better. Little did I know that that was going to be the rest of my life. It was really just to work days and less weekends. I fell into transplant in that regard. I worked on the transplant floor where we did kidney transplant, and I loved it. And so really saw people who were on dialysis for a really long period of time, and there was no hope for them except for a kidney transplant. Kidney transplant changed their life, allowed them to go back to work, allowed them to have families and live a normal life, cure their kidney disease. Fast forward that, I moved from the transplant floor to the transplant unit, where I became a coordinator, and I would help patients be evaluated if they needed a kidney transplant. I'd get them to the OR, work them up for the transplant, get them to the OR, and then I was also able to follow them on the floor while they were in the hospital, as well as when they were in clinic. Again, little did I know how this was going to evolve. We started a pancreas program, and then we started a liver transplant program, and then I got to meet people from all over the world in transplantation, and so it was really cool and really exciting. Fast forward 5 years later, and my uncle needs a liver transplant, and here we have hereditary liver disease in our family, where my uncle had hepatocellular carcinoma, cancer of the liver. So we worked to get him, and at the time he was about 65 years old. We worked to get him a liver transplant and get him worked up on the list. And he, at the time, they said he was too old, but we insisted that they move forward with this. And he ended up living 11 years with his transplant. Past his 70s, many weddings and babies and so on and so forth. And while he was there, my dad ended up with the same diagnosis. And he came home one day and he says, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. They just said there's a tumor in my liver and I'm going to be okay." And I said, "You're not going to be okay. You're coming with me." And I took him down and had him evaluated. He was 70 at the time. And again, they said, "We think he's too old. Let's see how it goes." And I said, "No, we're not going to see how it goes." He ended up getting transplanted pretty quickly because of his blood type. And we also were willing to take an older donor at the time, and that moved him up on the list. So again, a lot of people wouldn't know that that's an option, but I happen to know that. And what I would tell people is, make sure that you ask questions. What helps me get a kidney transplant, or what are all my options? The long and short of it is, my dad ended up getting a transplant. He at 70 years old. He went back to work in 3 months, and he lived another 4 years. And then he ended up dying of an aneurysm. But I have to tell you, they were the 4 most beautiful years of his life. He just loved every minute of it. And again, what I would say is, one of our neighbors, who was my father's age, had the same diagnosis. And they told him he was too old, and the family just said, okay. And he died in 6 months. And so my message to anybody is, organ donation is truly the gift of life. And people who need organ transplants, there's lots of options out there. There's lots of ways to, places to go. There's lots of information. So call people, talk to people. Make sure you look at all resources and never accept no for an answer. The future of transplantation is not only better immunosuppressants and better long-term outcomes for patients, but we are now on the verge of truly seeing animal organs, or right now particularly pig organs, that may be utilized for transplantation. So we have been involved in a number of studies that have utilized animal organs that have been successful, and we're now moving from single individual patient organ transplant studies to multi-center studies. The reason this is so exciting is, if and when we get to the point where we truly can utilize animal organs that can be transplanted into patients and live for a long time, 5, 10, 20, 30 years. One, there would be no waiting list. There's over 100,000 people waiting for a kidney transplant. They wouldn't have to be on dialysis. They wouldn't have to stop working because they feel so terrible on dialysis. It wouldn't have to impact them trying to have children or, getting married or going to school, all those things. And transplantation, while amazing, being able to use an organ, a pig organ, would almost be like using a heart valve. And it would become an everyday thing that once patients are diagnosed, they no longer have to go on dialysis. Or if you need a liver transplant, many patients die on the list because there's no organs available. We eliminate that by using animal organs. This is in the forefront. We still have a ways to go, but there is truly a potential that animal organs will be the future in 5, 10 years from now.